I'm a heart frozen in the dark. Evil prosecutor, love, justice, she block. Defense drops a gem, my fury unlock. Wrath like a storm, thunder at the clock. She can't handle wrong, shoots a heavy stone. Twisting testimonies, words cut to the bone. Defense brings the heat, cracks the evil tone. She sees in silence, conscience overthrown. Word of doom, vengeance in her gaze. Vindictive plot against virtuous face. Defense shines light, she drowns in malaise. Evil prosecutor, love trapped in her maze.
Hey folks, I told you I would be back as soon as cross-examination started. No, I didn't expect cross-examination to begin today, but apparently, since Prosecutor Love is completely incapable of, well, she was simply unable to continue draw everything out over and over again, since she wasn't allowed to ask inadmissible questions. So, yeah, I listened to the first 5 minutes of Mr. Steele's cross-examination, and then I want to experience this with you guys. So let's go. Oh yeah. Right after lunch, Miss Love tried to, and she really tried to ask the judge to hinder the defense's questions. And this isn't the first time she's done that, and it fails every time. Yeah, this is so bad. Well, we're going
and to make certain that I move in limine that these matters not be broached on cross-examination. I have intentionally not asked about the content of anybody's interviews, and I don't know whether or not any member of the defense intends to attempt to elicit testimony about what any particular witness or defendant said.
You think she's slow? I'm playing this in 1.25 speed. And she's still, please, judge, please.
Said who has not testified from Detective Thorpe, but I would ask that the court preclude questioning about what anybody said in an interview that has not yet testified. And I don't want to have to object like I'm trying to hide something, but I did specifically ask about certain people, but I intentionally did not go into what the content of any interviews were. So in as much as that may be an issue, I would rather, if we can, address it before the jury comes out.
All right. Anybody want to be heard on that? Well, I know that. So, does anybody want to be heard on that?
Sure. I guess it depends on the question and the reason for it. So that's very broad. So I don't want to agree with, I don't want the court to just say, yes, that's off limits, but I think we should do a question by question objection.
Okay, and what would your basis be?
Hearsay, as to any witness that has not testified.
All right,
Yeah,
I mean,
Ms. Love, why don't
I
you want to
don't-
share the interviews?
I don't know that I can decide that before I hear sort of what questions being asked.
I'll give you an example, if I may. You've heard the name Spencer Wright, Your Honor, which is R-I-G-H-T for the Ms. Winfrey. Well, it is my belief that Spencer Wright lied, did not tell the truth. He was looking to get a deal, a favorable agreement from the district attorney's office through the detective as well. And Detective Thorpe took out warrants that then were not followed through. That would not be hearsay because it's not offered for the truth. So that's why I said the question by question should be continued.
Yeah,
Your Honor,
that's a fair statement.
having Detective Thorpe testify that Spencer Wright lied necessarily gets to what Spencer Wright said. I think it's an improper question to ask him if he lied.
I would not think that was what,
Mr. Jingles, stop bringing in the rodents to chase them in here. Chase them and end them outside. Now you can't find him. Stop doing that. I guess I will be doing a rodent search. Because, yeah, he gave up. Mr. Jingles, don't bring them in. Yeah, I guess what I'm doing. This injured rodent will go somewhere and probably demise. And I can't find it because they are good at hiding, and then they will smell, and then I know which area to look for. Yeah, this is going to be a fun couple of days. Hello, Mr. Jingles. Let's continue with the trial.
Mr. Steele would be asking. Mr. Steele,
Example, it's a very broad objection, so you asked for a response. My response
Okay.
is we should go question by question.
And Your Honor, the reason that since Mr. Steele used Spencer Wright, for instance, if the question is, did Spencer Wright tell you, or did you, given that Mr. Steele's assertion is he thinks he lied, and therefore asking him about what he said isn't really offering for the truth of the matter asserted, it's hearsay, it's an out-of-court statement, and I don't believe that it can be cured with the assertion, well, I believe he lied. If he wants to get into what Spencer Wright said, then Spencer Wright can be called as a witness, but I don't think that it's proper to allow Detective Thorpe, one, to characterize, to testify about what Spencer Wright said.
Well, you can't exclude things just because you don't know beforehand what the question is and what the answer will be. That is why it needs to be a question-to-question objection.
When I've not
You-
opened that door, and there's no exception that affords him the ability to permissibly elicit that type of testimony from the witness. I'll stop there.
Yeah, good choice.
so I would think that if I understand Mr. Steele's argument correctly, if he asks, what did Spencer Wright say, or who did Spencer Wright say did X, Y, Z, that he wouldn't be eliciting that for the truth of what Mr. Wright said, but to then follow up and say warrants weren't taken out for whomever that person was, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Your Honor, I mean, he could ask whether warrants were taken out based on what Spencer Wright said, but I think that him getting into whether he lied or what he said specifically.
Yeah, I don't
Would
think
not be
he's,
proper.
yeah, I agree with that, but we weren't talking about a question about whether the officer thinks that, or the detective thinks that Mr. Wright lied. It would have been, you had said this would be hearsay, and he's offering something that if he asked it wouldn't be for hearsay purposes because it wouldn't be for the truth of the matter.
Your Honor,
So I mean, I can't make a blanket ruling that nobody can ask anything about.
but
Go ahead.
asking about whether Mr. Steele believes that it's the truth or not, eliciting specific statements from the witness. It's an out-of-court statement that may or may not be considered true. He may say he's not offering it for the truth of the matter, but I think it's akin to asking what Detective Thorpe did based on information he got from other people. And the idea is that it wasn't that what they said is true, he followed up on it, but I can't talk about what the other people said. And in the same manner that the objection was sustained, that I can't even, it's somehow embedded hearsay, this idea that having Detective Thorpe talk about what Spencer Wright said that Mr. Williams' attorney believes isn't true, somehow is okay because he doesn't believe it's true. It's the same type of situation where he's asking a question that necessarily relies on hearsay and sort of almost implicitly puts before the jury information that without Spencer Wright testifying, they should not be made privy to.
But Miss Love, you have been asking about people who aren't even indicted and calling them unindicted co-conspirators, and even unknown people without a name you have wanted to bring in this. And you were told no, and then you tried anyway, and it was objected. Now, this is so ridiculous from Miss Love, trying to condition the cross-examination in this way. It is ludicrous.
And he can ask a question, did Spencer Wright give you information? Did you try to confirm it or to
Speeding up to 1.5.
disprove it based on what
because she's
Spencer Wright said?
talking
Did
so
you do
slow.
certain things? But getting into the specifics of what Spencer Wright said, I believe, is even more improper than, is not proper.
All right, well, thank you. Okay, we ready for the witness and the jury?
And I'm sorry, I just want to say one thing. And I will be asking if he interviewed certain defendants. I will not be asking what they said.
Okay,
Yeah, this is the last few
Yes.
questions.
Just as a protective measure, it is my understanding that Detective Thorpe did not interview Mr. Williams. I would object to any questions. Did you interview Mr. Williams? I just don't see the relevance of it. It already came out. I objected to it. Did Mr. Williams come down? It was with Mr. Sledge. I objected to that question by the prosecutor. Did Mr. Williams come down? Did you, Mr. Sledge, speak with the police with Mr. Cope? Did Mr. Williams come down? I asked the court that comments on pre-arrest silence under ORR. And I know it's not a blanket rule anymore, but it's a 403 analysis. I don't see any benefit to it. So again, I don't want Mr. Williams' name to come up. Did you speak with or interview Mr. Williams?
Your Honor, I have a response to the court.
go ahead.
Judge, on cross-examination of Mr. Sledge, it was elicited that that it was talked about that Mr. Williams encouraged Mr. Sledge to take Kenneth Copeland to the police
Right.
station, and that the state instructed the witness to not tell the jury that. The fact that, and then Mr. Sledge somehow said yes, but the fact that that happened, and the fact that if that is what's out there, and of course I impeached him, I believe, but the fact that if it's relevant that Mr. Williams encouraged him before Mr. Williams, the pre-arrest silence prohibition does not apply to if Mr. Williams is encouraging someone to go. Did Mr. Williams go with him did Mr. Williams ever go down to the police station himself to talk about the fact that his stepfather's house was shot up? Asking about Mr. Williams going down to the police station after it's been talked about that he encouraged someone else to, I think is very relevant. If he's encouraging someone else to go, then he can go himself. And I'd have to find the case, but specifically.
Right, I don't think a question that just says, did you interview A, did you interview B, did you interview C? And the answer is either yes or no is a comment on pre-arrest silence if they say no. So you may ask that question.
Okay.
Are we now ready for the witness and the jury?
I wanted to ask the court, so will the court allow me to ask whether or not Defendant Williams ever, not just did he interview him, but will the court permit me to ask if he ever came to offer information about the shooting at his stepfather's house?
No, I think that gets a little too close to pre-arrest silence. No. Are we now ready for the jury and the witness?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Dun, dun, dun. All right.
Like it is
I think it is.
Okay. Detective Thorpe, before you talked to Kenneth Copeland, did you know that Jeffrey Williams had rented a Corvette before he rented the gray Infiniti?
No, ma'am.
Hi, Siobhan.
After you spoke with Mr. Right, did you also, without talking about what anybody said, speak with a person with the last name Stillwell, Tremont Stillwell?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak with that person along with ADA Sprinkle?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that in the DA's office?
Yes, ma'am.
When you mentioned earlier that you put out a picture, a photo of the person entering the barbershop with a gun, I'm going to show you what has been admitted as State's Exhibit 292 Charlie, 292 Yankee Charlie 2, and ask you if this is generally the depiction that you release to the public.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. And I'm going to now show you State's Exhibit. Just 1 second. 5 Yankee. 5 Yankee. And ask you whether this is or isn't similar to the photograph that you released to the public.
Similar?
Just 1 second.
What do you mean similar? That's a weird.
And while we're actually pulling up, it's going to be a different exhibit. I'll ask you this. After speaking with Kenneth Copeland, did you also speak with Antonio Sledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall who all was in the room or in the interview with Mr. Sledge?
Yes, should be Detective Dennis and Detective Gaither.
All right. And did you also speak with Demonte Kendrick?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was in the room when you interviewed him?
Detective Gaither and Detective Dennis.
Did you also interview Shannon Stillwell?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Who was in the room when you interviewed him?
I believe Detective Dennis and Detective Gaither on that one also.
And were all of these interviews captured in the same way that the interviews in normal interview rooms are recorded, audio and video?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Showing you 296 Yankee. Is 296 Yankee reflective generally like of the area that you put out or depicted when you put out the photo of the car passing by the barbershop?
Yes, ma'am.
After you did you learn about a Kelvin Treadwell during the course of your investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever speak with Mr. Treadwell?
I believe so.
After Did you know about a person by the name of Javaris Bradford before you turned your file over to the district attorney's office?
No, I did not.
Did you learn about a person named Javaris Bradford afterwards?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall where you first heard the name Javaris Bradford in the course of this investigation?
The fall investigation done by Senior 88, Mike Sprinkle, and his team.
Ariel Bax, had you heard that name prior to turning over the case to the district attorney's office?
No, ma'am.
All right. Did you learn that name after ADA Sprinkle began looking into this case?
Yes, ma'am.
What about, did you know about a person by the name of Kenya Morton?
No, ma'am.
Did you learn about Kenya Morton after you turned the case over to ADA Sprinkle?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you personally ever pull any phone calls from the jail from a Martinez Arnold?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Were you, now, did you personally ever interview or speak with Mr. Williams, Jeffrey Williams?
No, ma'am.
Tell me if you interviewed or knew of rather the name Justin Cobb before you turned the case over to the DA's office.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you remember how you first learned of that name?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you learn about it before your investigation, or did you know of that name before you began the investigation into the murder of Donovan Thomas?
No, ma'am, during.
Did you speak with Justin Cobb before you turned the case over to the district attorney's office?
I do not believe so.
Would you tell the jury whether after the interviews that you made, whether you conducted any other acts to further your investigation, either in conduct, in tandem with Mr. Sprinkle or someone else, in order for you to further your investigation into the murder of Donovan Thomas, without telling what anybody said?
Okay. Yes, I did.
What types of other actions did you take to further your investigation?
Interviews.
Mhm.
We conducted several interviews afterwards,
Okay.
in which they took the lead.
And who took the lead?
88, Senior 88, Mike Sprinkle.
And after those interviews and when you collected cell phone records, was it you that plotted them, or did you simply aid in collecting the cell phone records?
Ada collected cell phone records and sent it all over to the ADA's office.
Okay. Before you turned your case over,
Ms. Love is having real issues in getting questions out, and I assume it is because she counted on Judge Whitaker to allow her to ask the impermissible questions. And when she wasn't allowed, she just fell apart. I mean, this isn't even a house of cards she's putting up. It is a house of clowns.
to the district attorney's office, did you execute a warrant for people who were not later indicted for the murder of Donovan Thomas?
No, ma'am.
Did you, and by a warrant, I mean, did you have a cert or an arrest warrant signed for Antonio Sledge for the murder of Donovan Thomas?
Yes, I believe so. I did.
Is that a person that the district attorney's office declined to prosecute for the murder?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you execute an arrest warrant for Kenneth Copeland?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the district attorney's office decline to prosecute Kenneth Copeland?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the district attorney's office indict people that you had not arrested or executed arrest warrants for?
Yes, they did.
Was one of those persons Javaris Bradford, as it relates to the murder of Donovan Thomas?
I
to your
believe.
knowledge?
I believe so.
And what about Justin Cobb?
I believe so also.
And did the district attorney's office execute or indict the remaining people that you executed arrest warrants for?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
And what happened with that? Yak crap happened with that. Because it was a poor investigation done by incompetent cops who relied on bad information instead of following the evidence. Hi, Patty. Says, hey, Nick, I'm here listening. I just thought of something. Who does the state think killed? Because if they can't prove that, there's no RICO on that, right? Yeah, I mean, if they can't prove anybody indicted in this RICO is guilty of the ending of Donovan Thomas, if they are found not guilty on that one, I've said this before, by the way, that if none of the, I believe there are 2 murders in this case, those are the 2 most important things in this RICO case. Because everything else, the statute of limitations has run out. So if they can't be convicted on the murders, then that unlimited statute of limitation disappears. I believe that is why the state is trying to get in intrinsic acts that have occurred while they were in jail, because then they have something which the statute of limitations hasn't run out on. They know by now the absolute faster clock of this case, and they are desperately seeking something that the statute of limitations hasn't run out yet in order to pin that on the guys, which is, yeah.
How long is it customary to investigate a murder? Do you have a certain timeline that you have to finish it by?
A murder case is never stopped. It gets cold at times, but since it has no statute of limitations, it's always considered being investigated.
Do you close it after one arrest, or if there are other suspects, or do you continue to investigate it?
Continue to investigate.
Is it unusual for you to investigate a murder for over a year, or is that common?
No, ma'am, it's not unusual.
Okay. And so over the course of a year, can you tell the jury what is it that would take a year versus allowing you to finish a murder in 48 hours, like my COTV? Your Honor,
I mean, sustained, you might be able to ask them the different, but sustained as to that question.
yes, Your Honor. Would you tell the jury some of the factors that led to the length of time that you investigated this particular murder, generally speaking?
Cooperation, other substantial evidence, physical evidence from the scene, tangible.
Maybe competent investigators should be a factor in this.
And that there was a series of people that we had to interview to suss out what was good leads, what was bad leads.
Okay. Were you ever given any, were you ever able to obtain any surveillance footage from a McDonald's on Cleveland Avenue?
I believe I was not to my knowledge.
Did you?
Now she's preempting that damn McDonald's. We know through other witnesses, cops, that they were probably never there. They didn't care. But they have to say they did.
Make an effort when you obtain information in an interview to follow up on each piece of information, or did you just discard some and just?
No, I followed up on.
Just 1 second, Your Honor. Can you describe for the jury where the are you familiar with the place called the Green Store?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of place is the Green Store?
It's one of the local neighborhood convenience stores, mom and pops.
Okay. Were you ever able, or did anyone ever give you reason to believe there was surveillance footage at the Green Store of interest to you?
Not to my knowledge.
When you interviewed people who were under arrest, did you make certain to always read them their rights?
Yes, ma'am.
And if they weren't under arrest, was there ever any reason to read any rights?
No, ma'am.
All right, just 1 second. Time that you took. Do you recall the exact specific time that you took the warrants out for the murder of Donovan Thomas, arrest warrants?
I believe it was around the month of November,
Of what year?
2015,
Okay. And do you remember when it was that you turned the case over to the DA's office?
January of 2016.
Did you know the name Demise McMullen?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you learn about that name prior to turning the case over to the DA's office?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, I think that that's all that I have at this moment.
Yeah. Since she couldn't ask impermissible questions, she really struggled now after lunch by trying to preemptive what she knows the defense will ask about. And she was denied her wish to I used the word before. To her wish that the defense shouldn't be allowed to ask certain questions, preemptive objections of possible questions, which is so stupid.
All right. Any defense counsel have questions for this witness?
Oh yeah, here comes Mr. Steele. Now I'm going to take this in actual
Good
time.
afternoon, Detective Thorpe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Steele.
How are you?
Fine, sir. How about yourself?
Can I ask you some questions?
Yes, sir.
I want to go to Sunday morning, January 11th of 2015.
Yes, sir.
So just to orient you and the jury, you're at the Atlanta Police Department with Kenneth Copeland. That's what I'm focused on, okay?
Yes, sir.
And there's something in evidence already. It's a video audio recording.
Yes, sir.
And you were the one who started or ensured that that room was being video and audio recorded when you were with Mr. Copeland. Fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, it's already in. It's JW, Jeffrey Williams, 241D. May I play it, please?
You may.
It should come up on your screen.
Who's Walter Lee Maddox? Who? Who's Walter Maddox? No name? Did y'all ever rent or own an Infinity? Infinity. Y'all ever rent one of those cars before? Have you been stopped in an Infinity before? Have I? Yeah. No accident in an Infinity? No. A Maxima? Have I ever had a cover again? Mm-hmm. No. Okay. Let me think. So did you? Anytime. I had coverage in the Pontiac, that was a couple years ago. I ain't had no red, I ain't had no coverage, I ain't had no red sleep, I ain't have none of that. What kind of car your brother drive? Who was that in there? A white Dodge Charge. This truck car he gave me. Your brother got two cars? Nah, his girl got a car and the car he got the Dodge Charge. Oh. Then she got the little ugly little Malibu, like a 19 something. 2014 Dodge Charge? Yeah. One. Yeah. Who drives a Nissan? A Nissan? Mm-hmm. What color? What color is it? Gray. How about that? Nissan. Okay. Y'all ever had a Infinity Gray? A gray Infinity Q45 before? A truck? No. A cup? Yeah. That I know of.
Were you able to hear that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's fair, that's accurate, looks true.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you were asking Mr. Copeland questions about a gray, potentially rental car Infinity. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And this is within 8 hours approximately of the shooting of Mr. Donovan Thomas and the two other people, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you asked him those questions, Mr. Copeland was there because you had information, I believe, that the streets were calling his name about being involved in this crime, right?
Yes, sir.
So you gave him the opportunity through a conversation you had on the telephone. If he wants, he doesn't have to, but if he wants to come in and talk to you, that's what we're going to talk about, his possible being involved in the shooting, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, when he told you, no, he didn't know Mr. Maddox, no, there was nothing to do with a gray colored Infinity rental car, you had already obviously information that he may have been involved with that car. Is that fair to say?
Objection made as to that part.
Sustained.
The car that I just referred to, the gray rental car Infinity.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, he denied any knowledge or access to that type of vehicle that we just saw in Jeffrey Williams 241D, right?
Yes, sir.
And you had a reason to believe that he was not being truthful, correct?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, as to the improper form of the question.
Sustained.
You did not, at that point, you had information contrary to his denial, true?
Yes, sir.
Now, he also at that same interrogation meeting, interview, whatever you want to call it is fine, with Mr. Copeland, you also asked him where he was at and around the time of the shooting. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And he told you two places of interest. One is a McDonald's, right?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, mischaracterizes regarding at or around the time of the shooting.
Overruled.
Tells you about a McDonald's, right?
Yes, sir. He told me about McDonald's.
And that McDonald's, the jurors have seen pictures and they've heard the address, but we're talking about on Cleveland Avenue, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And it's near a laundromat, if you're familiar with the area.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Near the laundromat, near the auto place, and across the street is other establishments, including a gas station convenience store, fair?
Yes, sir.
And to your knowledge, at that time, were there cameras, when I say cameras, surveillance cameras, on the laundromat building?
I believe so. There was.
Were there cameras on the McDonald's?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
Were there cameras on the auto parts store?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
Were there cameras across the street on the convenience store, gas station?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you went, I assume you followed up on that alibi, true?
Yes, sir.
When you went to those establishments, or did you go to those establishments?
Yes.
Your Honor, I object on the basis of assuming facts, finding, and evidence. There was no, the question was regarding an alibi and based I think it's an improper question.
Overruled.
Did you go to those establishments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you attempt to locate and ask for, use subpoena power, the jurors may not use a search warrant, to get any of those video surveillance cameras if they existed?
I went and checked to see the video footage. So if they had video footage that could be of use, then that's when I'll go and obtain a search warrant to indicate in the search warrant, this is the time frame I'm looking for. But I believe at McDonald's, they already reached their 15-day mark. So the video footage.
Pay attention here to what investigator Squirrel Brain is saying here. He knew from the interview with Woody that McDonald's was a place of real interest. He waited long enough to get to the actual McDonald's, so they didn't have the footage anymore. Or he is lying about going there in the first place. My bet is on my second statement. He knows he has screwed up his entire career. Probably let an enormous amount of actual guilty people go because he keeps listening to bad info. He realized if he's going to keep his job or even get a new job after this, he has to lie. And that is why I believe he's lying about the McDonald's one. I actually do.
I think was already overwritten, I believe.
Now, who did you already told the jury that you would take notes and put this all in your reports, correct?
Detective Gaither's visit, if I remember correctly, it was regarding the laundromat, not the Donwyn Thomas one. And I believe she lied too. So.
Yes, sir.
And you have to do that. You have to document what you're doing, right?
Yes, sir.
Because sometimes cases are tried. In our case, we're 9 plus years after January 10th, 2015, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jurors whether you ever put in your report anywhere that you saw the video at the McDonald's or you spoke with somebody?
No, I believe I did not.
Is there a reason you did not put that detail in your report?
No, because I didn't understand any evidence from that. So that's why I didn't.
This is horrible. If you go somewhere and is unable to retrieve video because you came there too late, that is information the defense is entitled to down the line. You have to put those things in your report. Why? Because it's Brady material. Now, the report is gone. I don't know. His notes are gone, at least. He didn't put it in his report. And I know that his notebooks or his notes from that time mysteriously gone. But please believe him, because he's a detective, Detective Squirrel Brain.
Document in my report, but I had it in my notes.
Okay. How about your notes then? Where are your notes today?
I can't find my notepad.
And
Any notepads, notes about an investigation should accompany the evidence. I mean, it should be with the evidence, but it's gone mysteriously. Isn't that convenient?
to be fair to jury, I asked you about your notes previously, fair?
Yes, sir.
And you said the same thing. You can't find it, right?
Yes, sir.
It's gone.
Yes, sir.
Now, how about you mentioned McDonald's, how about the auto parts store? That video surveillance. Can you tell the jurors what you did to secure that surveillance on January 10th, 2015, the relevant period of time?
Same time, I believe I went out there maybe a couple of days later to look because I focused on the McDonald's since that's what he was talking about.
How could you focus on McDonald's and still not go there until after they had overwritten, according to you, the surveillance videos? This is contradictory to his own statements on the stand.
And I did not obtain any video from them either.
What did that person tell you?
Um,
If you remember.
Objection is hearsay.
Sustained.
Let me ask you this way. In your report, did you put anything about going to the auto parts store to inquire about their surveillance?
no, sir.
Okay. And it would be in your notes?
Yes, sir.
Notes are gone.
Yes, sir.
Can't find.
Can't find.
Okay.
Sustained.
Across the street, the convenience store gas station, their surveillance equipment. Did you go there and ask them for theirs?
I believe I was asking for theirs.
You did not?
I believe I did not.
Okay. And how about the laundromat across the street from the McDonald's?
I don't think their system was working at that time.
Do you remember who you spoke with?
No, can't remember the name.
And the same questions, it's not in your report, correct?
Correct.
You mentioned the green store. Do you know the true name of the green store by any chance?
No, sir, not offhand.
Okay, that's fine. But it's called the green store for the obvious reason that it was green?
Yes, sir.
All right. And how far, if you know, and if you don't know, just say, I'm not familiar. Would you say the green store is from the location, God forbid, that Donovan Thomas was shot?
Want to say maybe a couple of blocks?
We're talking close, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Copeland told you that on January 10th, 2015, and when I say told you, I'm still sticking to the next day or 8 hours later. He told you also that he was at around the green store at around the time of Mr. Thomas being shot. Fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And are you aware, did you find out, did you look for it, whether the green store had surveillance cameras?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did the green store have surveillance cameras?
I believe their system was down also.
Okay. And who did you speak with?
I can't recall the person's name.
And did you put it's not in your report, fair to say?
No, sir.
And the notes are gone.
Yes, sir.
Now, surveillance footage is a good tool. Would you agree with that for
Yes,
law
sir.
enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Because a surveillance camera, if it's properly working, no one tampered with it, it doesn't really have any motivation or agenda. Is that fair?
Vague and
Overruled.
motivation.
True.
True.
And it just captures, if it's working properly, the images that it has in front of it, right?
True.
So we wouldn't really have to debate whether Mr. Copeland or others were at a McDonald's if we had that surveillance.
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Now, with regards to Mr. Copeland, when he told you he made the denial of the infinity, remember what we just played?
Mhm.
At that point in time, that got you, I assumed, so you tell us, that got you interested in maybe he's not being forthright. Is that fair?
Objection, Your Honor, as to improper questions regarding.
Sustained.
You questioned whether he was being truthful with you. Is that fair to
Objection,
say?
Steele, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Did you have questions on his answers that he denied the infinity?
Objection,
Bless you.
vague. Bless you.
I'm sorry.
I said objection vague. The question was, did you have questions?
Questions on his. Sustained.
How did you take it when Mr. Copeland said, no, I don't have anything to do and no memory of the infinity?
Objection, Your Honor, vague
Overruled on that basis.
Okay, how did I take it?
and
Yeah.
relevance, Your Honor.
Sustained.
All right. Let me ask you about Jeffrey Williams, okay? You found out that Jeffrey Williams rented a Corvette vehicle from Hertz Rental Car at the airport, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And when I say rented, on or about January 6, 2015, something like that. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
If my day's wrong, I'm not trying to,
Yeah.
it's around that time, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the Infinity on around January 7th, 2015, fair to say?
Okay. Did I find out if he rented it January 7th?
You found out later that
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, in his name, there's an Infinity vehicle rented, right?
Yes, sir. Through the DA's office. Yes, sir.
Tell the jurors what evidence you have that Jeffrey Williams drove that Infinity rented vehicle.
Objection, Your Honor, regarding matters that are within the province of the jury in terms of evidence.
Rephrase.
Do you have any evidence to share with the
Rephrase.
jury?
That's the issue, that she's rephrased the question.
I think that's a proper question.
Rephrase the question.
I'm going to have to move on to another topic. Let me ask you about,
Do you want to approach from that?
sure.
Oh. Sidebar counter 249.
Just check and make sure it's a little distracting. Check and make sure your phones aren't getting picked up by it.
Okay. I wonder what that was all
You've
about.
taken it anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, Miss. Yes, Mr. Steele.
Good seeing you.
All right.
Same here, sir.
I do believe that yeah, he got his point across that this is a bad investigation with a bad investigator who's miraculously loses the information he needs. He just claims he had it. Yeah. But before we move on to Mr. Shard, pinned on the top of the chat here is Quindarius Zachary's fundraiser. Now, QZ has an attorney. Attorneys cost money. Every time you see his attorney in trial, that costs in the courtroom, that costs money. Every time he goes to the hospital, the drive, the visit, that costs money. Now, I don't know what his attorney charges, but say it's in the region of $500 an hour, somewhere in that region. That means the fundraiser now has 16 hours paid for. So I forbid you to do super chats and gifted memberships until Friday. If you want to do something good, and at this moment, there it is. It's fair, fight for fair treatment. That is, so the QC's fundraiser is pinned on the top of the chat on YouTube. All right. Thank you. Let's get back to the cross-examination. Now with Max Shart.
Ms. Shart, you're standing up. You have questions? Well, I mean, you're up and nobody else is, so I guess you can take your turn now and then we'll see whether anybody else has questions.
Investigator Thorpe, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
All right, my name is Max Shart. I represent Shannon Stillwell, okay?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a copy of your report in front of you?
No, sir.
Let me see if I can get you.
Oh. Of course they haven't.
I can't hear you, what? I don't, oh, if Mr. Shart has one, I have one that he could use.
I believe
It
it's-
doesn't matter.
And Your Honor, may I just
Come-
approach and bring it up? And I'm not asking Detective Thorpe to refer to it at all right now. I just want him to have it handy in case he needs to.
In the event, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Detective Thorpe, I'm going to ask you about October 19th of 2015.
Okay.
Okay? And that is the day, for reference. Do you know what happened on that day off the top of your head?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was the day that you spoke to the person who identified himself as Nicholas Robinson, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I'd like to talk to you about how that happened. Zone 1 Day Watch contacted you about having a person in custody, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were informed by your fellow officers that this person was named Nicholas Robinson.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's the way, to your understanding, this person identified himself to the police.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, this Nicholas Robinson, he was in custody, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He had, on that day, on October 19th, 2015, he had
Another person that doesn't exist.
been arrested for a felony offense of theft by receiving, correct?
Yes, sir.
Objection, Your Honor, as to, never mind, withdraw the objection.
And he was also had probation warrants.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The reality is Nicholas Robinson was on his way to Rice Street, to 901 Rice Street, the Fulton County Jail.
Yes, sir.
And your fellow officers called you and said, this person may have information on something you're working on.
Yes, sir.
And you decided, well, before I get there, on direct, as I understand your testimony, you testified that you did not think Nicholas Robinson was trying to help himself out by talking to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when I say help himself out, I'm talking about get consideration on charges that were now pending against him. Are we on the same page?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your testimony is you do not believe that he was trying to get help for
Objection
those.
asked and answered.
Overruled.
Is that your testimony? You don't believe he was trying to get curry favor and get help with his pending charges?
Yeah, he may have, but that was not up to me.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Prior to October 19th, 2015, prior to the date he had been arrested, had Nicholas Robinson ever come up to you and tried to give you information?
No, sir.
Okay.
This cop must, I mean, I thought that Miss Gaither was the most incompetent cop, but imagine testifying that somebody in jail coming up to him, hey, I have information. And he doesn't believe, well, as he said, he was not in the position to give him anything, which is a load of bull crap. Because if a person gives a cop useful information, they will talk to the district attorney and said, he is very good at giving information, and then they will have leniency. That's the way it works. So yeah, in my opinion, Detective Thorpe, Detective Squirrel Brain is a lying liar who lies.
You decided to conduct a formal interview with this person who to you was known as Nicholas Robinson.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what was he wearing at that time of the formal interview? Was he in Rice Street Blues yet?
Relevance.
Sustain.
During the course of your interview with Nicholas Robinson, he continued to refer to himself as Nicholas Robinson, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you referred to him as Nicholas Robinson because you believed that was his identity, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he never corrected you.
Yes, sir.
And you all, without getting into what was said, you all spoke about the shooting of Donovan Thomas.
Yes, sir.
After this interview on October 19, 2015, investigator Gaither informed you that this man's name was not, in fact, Nicholas Robinson, correct?
Yes, sir. But it was
Yeah, so this moron cop here didn't even verify the name. That is how good he is as an investigator. Anybody can walk up to him, give a false name, give fake information, and he will just sit there and write it down and not control anything about it. And we are supposed to believe he verified a bunch of stuff with Woody? Hell no.
not after the interview. It was during the interview.
Okay, during the interview,
Yes, sir.
investigator Gaither informed you that this man was not, in fact, Nicholas Robinson,
Correct.
and his name was Spencer Wright.
Correct.
Okay, and just to be clear, when we say during the interview, it was well into the interview. The interview hadn't just started. You guys had been talking for some time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this interview happened on October 19, 2015.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The warrants that you took out on the Donovan Thomas case were taken out. I know you testified that it was in November sometime.
Yes, sir.
It was actually taken out on October 20th,
Okay.
2015. Isn't
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, sir.
So he took the information from a person who lied about his name and issued warrants based on this lying informant information. Yeah, as Samantha Yo said, yeah, Woody said on the stand, you could tell this guy anything and he believed it. And yeah, this guy is a moron.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about your reports. You've been in law enforcement for how long?
30 years and 8-9 months.
30 years and 9 months.
Mhm.
Have you been a
And all that
shit
with
cop for
Atlanta
all
Police
that time?
Department?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you were brought on by the police department, before you even started you started on the streets, right?
Yes, sir.
On the streets. Okay, before you even started, they trained you on writing reports, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and throughout these 30 years of service you have with the Atlanta Police Department, you've obtained refreshers, taken refresher courses on writing reports, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've been trained that your reports are to be accurate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, accurate about evidence received,
Yes, sir.
accurate about things that have been told to you,
Yes, sir.
and accurate about the work you do on a case, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were supposed to document that work, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's also, these reports are also supposed to be complete, correct?
Yes, sir.
So as per your training, work you've done on the case, your reports are to include a complete accounting of this work, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it isn't, because he just, this doesn't need to be in there, this doesn't need to be in there, doesn't need to be in there, and not that, because he's a bad cop. Bad at his job.
Now, you testified, and I'm not going to
Yes.
tread over things that Mr. Steele covered.
Yeah, as Sylvia Edwards points out, Spencer is the man who was supposed to be at the bus stop, right? Yeah. And when Mr. Sprinkle checked the video of that bus stop, only thing he saw was a cat, not Spencer.
But just briefly, you testified that you went to the McDonald's to search for surveillance video.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what date did you do that?
I believe it was not the 11th, I think it was the 12th. January 12th, I'm sorry, January
Okay.
12th.
How could you go to McDonald's January 12th when you say they didn't have it because it was outside of the 15-day period? So it was overwritten. This doesn't add up.
January 12th, you
Oh.
went to the McDonald's
Yes, sir, I believe it
to
was.
look for video,
Yes, sir. I can't recall exactly what day it was.
but you're pretty sure it was January 12th?
Yeah, it was in that time range. It wasn't like 2 or 3 months later.
Okay, did you not just testify that when you went to the McDonald's, they informed you that the video had been taped over?
Yes, most of it is on a 15-day cycle, so I don't never know when their 15-day cycle starts or ends.
Okay, but if you went on January 12th,
They have 15 days cycles. Okay, folks. 15-day cycles means they put out the 15-day-old video, VCR band, whatever's, and then they will write over that one. And then the oldest one to the newest one, and the oldest one to the newest one. So they don't take the 2-day-old video and record over that. They take the oldest one. Jesus Christ, detective, you can't even lie good.
that would have been it, 2 days.
Yeah, once again, I do not know when their 15-day. Everybody's system is different. May not follow the same 15 days like as in the months. It's like sometimes we get them and the video can be 2 hours behind, 2 hours ahead, based on that particular location. So I do not know when their 15-day rotation was.
Who went with you?
I went by myself.
Who did you talk to at McDonald's? What was their name?
I cannot recall the name.
Did you record any of this?
No.
And none of this is in your report?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's not.
Yes, it's not.
Okay. The auto parts store. When did you go speak to people at the auto parts store?
Maybe a couple of days later.
And who went with you?
Nobody.
And is that recorded?
No, sir.
And is that mentioned in your reports for APD?
No, sir.
When did you realize you lost your notepad?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance. When you realize.
I cannot recall, but I knew that upon hearing the indictment, I went looking for the case file and I could not locate the case file.
Did you not hand over your notepad to the DA's office when you handed over your file?
No.
So the case file and his notebook, he didn't hand over the notebook to the DA's office when he handed it over, which he should have. And then all of a sudden, he can't find the case file either. Except the parts apparently that magically appeared, but only the parts the prosecution needs magically appears. The parts which can be useful for the defense, probably lost in the hack. This
Okay.
is so stupid.
Let's talk about the Green Store. The Green Store is formerly known as Mommy's Grocery. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's on Glen Street,
Yes, sir.
about 100 yards from where Glen intersects with McDaniel Street, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you would agree quarter mile from the scene where Donovan Thomas was shot?
Yeah, about a block and a half, 2 blocks maybe.
Block and a half to 2 blocks.
Yeah, probably.
To drive from the Green Store to that scene about a minute,
Probably less than that,
less than a minute. Okay,
depending on the traffic.
gotcha. Okay, as I understood on direct, your testimony about surveillance at the Green Store was no one told you they had surveillance.
Well, I believe they said the system was not working that day or something like that.
No, I'm talking about what Ms. Love asked you. I believe you said that no one told you that they had surveillance. Is that not correct?
I can't recall, but I believe it was to that degree that the video system was not working. So they didn't have video.
Who told you?
Okay.
If the video system was not working, they didn't have video.
So your testimony isn't that no one told you they had surveillance. Your testimony is you went to the Green Store?
Correct.
Okay. Who went with you to the Green Store?
No one.
Who did you speak to?
I cannot recall the person's name.
What day did you go to the Green Store?
Probably within that week, I believe it was.
Okay. And it was that trip to the Green Store, was that recorded?
No, sir.
Okay. Is that in your notes?
No, sir.
I mean, excuse me, in your report?
No, sir.
Okay. You testified that on the night, early morning of January 11th, you had a brief conversation with Deshaun Quarterman.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Deshaun, other than that brief conversation with Deshaun Quarterman, did you speak to Deshaun Quarterman any more about as part of your investigation?
No.
Okay. Mr. Copeland, Kenneth Copeland, you said that you were involved in about 4, I believe the testimony was 4 formal interviews with Mr. Copeland?
I believe so it was. Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have Mr. Copeland's phone number?
No.
Did Mr. Copeland have your phone number?
No.
Did you ever speak on the phone with Mr. Copeland as part of your investigation, other than that first night when Deshaun Quarterman called him and you?
No, I can't recall ever talking to him on the phone
Okay.
or interviewing him on the phone. No, sir.
Well, okay, I want to be clear. I'm not saying just an interview. I'm saying talking to him on the phone.
No, sir.
So your testimony is you never spoke to
Not that I
Kenneth
recall.
Copeland on the phone. Not
No,
that
sir.
you recall, or you never did it.
I can recall if I ever did. So I think I did not talk to him over the phone.
Okay. Are there any mentions in your notes, your reports about speaking to Mr. Copeland on the phone?
No, sir.
And
Would he testify that he talked to him on occasions? So,
Kelvin Watts, you know him as Shell Kel, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever interview Kelvin Watts as part of your investigation?
Yes, I did.
Okay. When was that?
I cannot recall when it was, but he you want to go into detail, but it was.
I'm not asking you what was said. I'm
Okay.
just asking when you spoke to him.
I cannot recall. He was brought on an unrelated case.
Okay. So as part of this investigation, I'm asking, not unrelated cases.
Well, I asked him because he was there, at the time of the incident. So I asked him roundabout questions and he was like, don't want to talk about it.
So let me ask you this. In your investigation, were you able to determine Kelvin Watts' whereabouts on January 10th, 2015 at 7:20 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to object based on hearsay. It would necessarily require.
Overruled.
And where was Kelvin Watts?
He was at the location, the incident location.
Where Donovan Thomas was shot?
Yes, sir.
How far away was he from Donovan Thomas?
Your Honor, may we approach? I need to.
You may.
Thank you.
Dun, dun, dun. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached a milestone. We have reached sidebar counter number 250. Sidebar counter 250. Yeah. Oh. All right. Yep. There you go. Sidebar 250. Oh, wow. Yeah. On day 131, we got to sidebar 250. Now, sidebars has slowed down since Whittaker took over. But I mean, 250 sidebars? That's a lot. All right, let's return to the Foster clock. Okay.
Okay.
Investigator Thorpe, how did you determine that Kelvin Watts was on the scene?
I'm going to object to assuming facts not in evidence, and I'm going to ask that a proper foundation be laid.
That's
He's asking because he already testified that Kelvin was at the scene. He testified to that. Of course, the defense are allowed to ask how.
overruled.
The video surveillance footage of a person coming inside the barbershop was presented to the media, placed on the news, and his father called me and notified me that the person I'm looking for with the assault rifle is actually his son, Kelvin Watts.
Oh, okay. Let me try to clear this up. Okay. Investigator Thorpe, could you turn? Does Donovan Thomas Sr. have multiple sons?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. Would looking at your report refresh your recollection about who was in the barbershop?
Yes.
Okay. Could you please turn to page 3 of your report where it talks about January 11, 2015? I'm assuming your page 3 is the same one I'm looking at.
Okay. So the person in the barber shop isn't Mr. Watts?
Do you see where it says on January 11, 2015 at approximately 18:45 hours?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could you read that to yourself and see if that refreshes your recollection about who was in the barber shop with the gun?
Yeah, okay, yes, sir.
Okay. Who was in fact the individual that was in the barber shop with the gun?
Okay, DeMonte Thomas.
Okay. And is that another one of Donovan Thomas's senior's children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Kelvin Watts, I'm going to ask again, do you know whether he was at the scene or not?
No, sir.
You don't know one way or another?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you ever specifically,
So, Mr. Watts, who this detective Squirrel Brain have claimed was at the scene, he doesn't know. Yeah, that's the reliability of his testimony. Out through the window, in through the door, into the bathroom stall, and down the shitter.
ask him, without giving me the answer, did you ever specifically ask him when you interviewed him about a
Objection,
different case?
relevance as to whether he asked him, it would,
Overruled.
Did you ever specifically ask him if he was at the scene or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you able to identify, you've seen the surveillance video, correct?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to identify all of the people that were standing by Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. when he was shot?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any other defense attorneys with questions for this witness?
So he really, well, he asked and he got a yes and he went with it. And then he tried to manufacture the reason why he believed Mr. Watts. And as it turns out, he had no basis of believing him at all.
Mr. Williams? Questions for this witness?
okay.
Is there redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Thorpe, you were asked on cross-examination about
Now I'm
an
going to speed up.
alibi that Mr. Copeland gave at the time of Donovan Thomas's murder. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
And do you recall exactly what it was that Mr. Copeland told you he was doing at the time of Donovan Thomas's murder?
Yes, if I recall correctly, he stated that he was home in the bed asleep.
So did he ever tell you that he was at the green store at the time of Donovan Thomas's murder?
No, ma'am.
Did he ever tell you he was at the McDonald's at the time of Donovan Thomas's murder?
No, ma'am.
What about McDonald's?
Did Mr. Copeland offer you, let me ask you this. Was that information that he gave to you about his whereabouts captured on the video surveillance in the interview room?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Copeland ever tell you anything different about what he was doing or where he was at the time of Donovan Thomas's murder outside the interview room?
No, ma'am.
Now, how many, you said you worked 300 homicides or more during your time with APD?
Yes, ma'am.
How is it that you,
How many of them are still unsolved? Mr. Squirrel Brain, what is your conviction rate? What is your we clear this case rate? Or are they all plea deals and garbage and everything?
give to the district attorney's office the results of your investigation, do you normally just turn over your notepad or do you summarize it in a report?
I summarize in a report. It was called the lead investigator supplement.
All right. You were al-
Lead investigator supplement. Why have we heard so much crap from different so-called gang experts who claims they were involved with everything? I mean, now all of a sudden he is the lead investigator. Lead investigator Squirrel Brain.
also asked on cross-examination about the time it takes to get from the murder scene to the green store. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Kenneth Copeland ever give you any indication that immediately before or immediately after the murder, he was at the green store?
No, ma'am. He never gave me any indication. So
In all of your interactions with Kenneth Copeland, did he ever change his whereabouts as to where he was at the time of the murder?
no, ma'am, he did not.
You were also asked whether you interviewed Kelvin Watts.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you said it was in the course of another investigation, do you recall what investigation that was?
Yes, ma'am.
What investigation was that?
It was a homicide.
A homicide of who?
I can't recall the victim's name. It was a young lady.
Now, as it related to that particular homicide, did you interview Shannon Stillwell?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you were asked on cross-examination about asking Kelvin Watts his whereabouts at the time Donovan Thomas was murdered, do you have any indication, or did you see any indication on the surveillance footage that you saw that Kelvin Watts was there at the scene of the murder?
Not definitively, no, ma'am.
So why did you say it then? Why did you make that claim?
And regarding the victim of the murder that you were speaking to Kelvin Watts and that you interviewed Shannon Stillwell about, was that victim Tiara Jones?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
When you
Remember how good his memory was all the time? And then he's asked about a different case. He didn't even remember the name of the victim. This is called coaching or prepping the witness. They go up on the stand and act as if they have this amazing recollection. He couldn't even remember the other homicide's victim's name when asked about it. And he's been asked about that specific interview, and he has no recollection. That tells me this pile of garbage can only parrot, because, I mean, his memory is as good as, I don't know, mine. And I have to look down to see what color socks I have. And I have 2 colors of socks, dark or white.
when you take notes about what you learned in your investigation, do you include every negative outcome that you have? In other words, I went to this store and found nothing, this store and found nothing. Do you include all of that?
It's not found nothing. It's I was searching for surveillance video and it was overwritten. I searched for surveillance video and it didn't work. I looked for surveillance video and they had that. Is not insignificant. It's not like you walking into a random store asking, did you see anything? No. And then move along. This is quite important. This is Brady material, in my opinion.
every time in your
I'm speeding up here.
investigative summary?
No, ma'am.
Would you keep that information or share that information if you were asked about it?
Yes, ma'am.
You would share it?
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you put all of the negative information, like in terms of not having found anything, in your investigative report?
I try and keep my supplements relative to the investigation. So if they wish to do a follow-up, they say, okay, this is where he went. He got this. Let me go back and verify this, verify that.
That's an interesting answer. So nobody asked him to, can you please go with us with this? What did you actually do? What did you? So nobody even bothered.
You were asked on cross-examination as well about questions that you spoke with Mr. Copeland regarding,
Yes, ma'am.
and specifically, if he rented a gray Infiniti.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any knowledge that Jeffrey Williams had rented a gray Infiniti at that time?
No, ma'am. None.
And when you say that you met Kenneth Copeland at the back of police headquarters,
Yes, ma'am.
did you see how he arrived?
No, ma'am.
Were you given information about how he arrived from anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you given any information about who all was in the car when he arrived?
No, ma'am.
Did your questions regarding what kind of car that Mr. Copeland may have owned or rented have anything to do with what you believe he arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
You, when asked on cross-examination about Mr. Copeland's whereabouts at the time of Donovan Thomas's murder, do you know or have personal knowledge of where his cell phone records indicate he was at the time of the murder? Personal knowledge, do you?
No, ma'am. I do not have personal knowledge.
Did you see yourself and Mr. Copeland on the screen when you were asked on cross-examination about defense? Jeffrey Williams defense exhibit number 241Z?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see?
For I was checking what people are saying about this. What is with the redirect, which is apparently still ongoing, and apparently she just goes on and on and on and on and on about things he did put in his report, trying to give the jury the notions that it was only the surveillance video that he didn't put in the report, which is absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. And yeah, I don't think there's any use. Oh, wait. I'm looking here at Sedinaire. Let me bring this up instead. Okay, let's listen to what he caught.
One of the things I wanted to inquire of one of our investigators about their efforts to secure one of the witnesses and the difficulty that we have had with respect to that witness. I expect that witness will be coming in. It's the one that we've been discussing, but I think it's pertinent information.
Not right now. And frankly, it doesn't matter if you have a particular witness. What you have been instructed is to have enough witnesses to fill the day.
Oh.
And so if one witness is difficult, then you need to have another one lined up. Let's get the jury, please.
One of the things I wanted to put.
Okay, this seems to be after the next break of sorts. Okay, here's the break. We can skip over more uninteresting parts.
And Detective, we're going to ask you to step out also.
Yes.
Thank you. Can we just through the system? So whomever that was, can we just test it now? Because I suspect it's not this system. It's that people aren't holding this close enough to their mouths. So I wanted to just have y'all see if you can. So can you hear me when I'm talking? Good enough? No. Okay, so people, can you hear me?
I think the issue is people, I don't know what changed since the previous board, but I think people are speaking too softly and holding it too far away.
Well, that's probably because I constantly tell at least Miss Love to keep it down because I suspect that she gets loud enough sometimes that the jury can hear her. But with regard to everybody else, maybe she needs to talk more quietly and the rest of us need to talk more loudly. So we'll try to do that and hold it closer. Okay, sorry about that. Well, we're about to talk about it anyway out here because we haven't resolved anything.
Your Honor, with the court checking its notes, could the court just give us the date that was?
Well, I gotta find it first.
Okay.
I think would have been in that week in August, right? That we had the non-jury week. Okay. It is too hot now. It is too hot now. Go ahead and everybody who needs to use the. I guess if we want to, yeah, go ahead and everybody who needs to use the restroom and then we'll come back on the record before we get the jury back in.
Okay, so another break.
The interview.
Let me be. Mr. Kendricks.
Said in the interview.
Let me be specific. Did Mr. Kendricks tell you that he did not remember what day did you interview him? Did you indicate in your report, reflect in your report, what day you interviewed him? Did Mr. Kendricks, did you ask him where he was or what he was doing on January 10th? And did he reply he couldn't even remember that day?
No, I'm not going to allow that. And you said yourself, you think you can maybe ask that through another witness. So
I can.
ask it through another witness because that's more the type of thing you should ask on direct.
Okay.
Then redirect.
No problem. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Kendrick.
What did I say?
There's no S at the end.
No S at the end.
No S at the end.
Okay. Anything else before we get this witness back and the jury back? Are you about to wrap up with this witness? Okay. And then how long is your next witness going to be?
I'm trying to see how fast they can actually be here. Our next witness was one who had on that list.
So you don't have another witness here and ready to go, even though I have said over and over and over and over again to have your next witness ready to go?
Even though our best efforts have been made to make that happen. The person, I'm not going to represent that they're not. I just want to find out where they are before I say something different.
Can we know who the mystery witness is?
I intend that it will be G. Baker that we put on the list this morning.
Could you speak into the mic, please?
G. Baker, who arrested Quindarius Sabry.
G. Baker, I think is what she's saying.
So they don't even have the arresting officer lined up. Are you freaking kidding me? Judge, seriously. Again, I've said this for a month now. At what point is enough enough? At what point do you have to be, Your Honor, before you realize Miss Love has no intentions to follow your rules, to follow your direct orders? And now she can't even get the arresting cop in there?
Yes. Yep.
And, okay, well, is there somebody else if that witness isn't available?
Let's see.
I mean, frankly, I'd rather that a witness get I don't want anybody inconvenienced, but I'd rather you have an extra witness here than we have an hour left with the jury, but nothing to fill their time.
Yes, sir.
Seriously.
Okay, anyway, well, so how much longer are you gonna have with this witness?
Not an hour, about 30 minutes, not even that long.
30 minutes more with this witness?
10, 15, I have about, I can count the questions for the court.
Okay, again, this is redirect.
It is.
Yeah. Redirect should be based only,
I don't want you to count the questions.
redirect should be only
Just want you
based
to
on the
stay
cross-examination.
Focused.
It shouldn't be twice the time
Do we have
of
an
the
answer to the question,
cross-examination.
how long the next witness is away?
Yeah, I mean, Your Honor, okay, if you don't have, I mean, there has to be ramifications.
Okay, well, let's just continue with
The
the
doctor pay
redirect.
1
and then
month.
There may or may not be any recross, and then we'll see if the witness is here yet, and they better be. Seriously, I know. Okay, so let's get the witness and get the jury.
One of the,
Oh, here it comes.
yeah, before the jury's brought in, just really quickly, if I may. One of the things I wanted to inquire of one of our investigators about their efforts to secure one of the witnesses and the difficulty that we have had.
That you didn't have any difficulties. QZ was prepared to go in when you actually had the need for him. But he was in the fucking hospital for a life-threatening illness. And you put him in jail for it when he needed to be home to take care of himself, to not get more sick. And what happened? He got more sick. So the jail officers brought him back to the hospital more or less early in the morning, Monday morning. You put him there. Well, Miss Hilton, technically. And the judge, knowing he had a life-threatening illness that untreated could cause death. That if it doesn't abide with dietary and other rules, is extremely painful. And you put him in jail with no painkillers, no medicine. You evil daughter of demons.
With respect to that witness, I expect that witness will be coming in. It's the one that we've been discussing, but I think it's pertinent information.
Not right now. And frankly, it doesn't matter if you have a particular witness. What you have been instructed is to have enough witnesses to fill the day.
Yes.
Okay, so if one witness is difficult, then you need to have another one lined up.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's get the jury, please.
Let's see what the final redirect is. skipping ahead.
Did you detail? Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Thorpe,
Yes, ma'am.
did you detail in your report an incident regarding Kenneth Copeland, his child's mother, and his child being shot at on February 19th, 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you detail in your report the description of the vehicle that Kenneth Copeland said participated in that shooting?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you detail in your report?
Okay, I saw this on Twitter, but apparently the defense asking what was not in the report opened the door for everything that is in the report, which is a stupid ruling. Immensely stupid, because thinking about the doors both Glanville and her has shut close for the defense, and this is allowed as opening the door. That is rules that applies for thee but not for me, or vice versa.
That after that shooting, you spoke with both Kenneth Copeland and his child's mother.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you detail in your report that happened on February 21st, 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you detail in your report, you were asked regarding by Mr. Steele, you were asked about your questions to Kenneth Copeland and the gray Infinity or Maxima. Do you recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you detail in your report whether or not you were looking for a Pontiac Bonneville around February 21st, 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you detail in your report?
Oh God.
Asking Kenneth Copeland about waiting so long to talk about the date of the homicide incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you detail in your report him stating that he was not a snitch?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you detail in your report?
Oh, for free. No, I can't. Sorry, folks. I just can't. Okay. Recross.
Any other things that you left out of your report?
No, ma'am.
I at least saw Mr. Shart. Recross. I can't be bothered with that pile of manure from the state.
Okay. All right, thank you. Investigator Thorpe, first of all, I just want to clear this up. You spoke about interviewing Kelvin Watts in relation to the murder of Tiara Jones.
Yes.
Okay. And then Ms. Love asked you if that was the case you interviewed Mr. Stillwell about, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's be clear. You interviewed Mr. Stillwell as a victim in that case, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, another piece of information that slipped Miss Love's mind. Mr. Stillwell was a victim. And she tried to allude that he was interviewed as a perpetrator, which is false.
Okay. The Green Store, that is the location when Kenneth Copeland spoke to you that he claimed to be at. No, let me back up. Kenneth Copeland told you that he was not present at a murder, correct?
Correct.
He told you when you spoke to him in these interrogations that just prior to the
Interviews.
murder,
Go ahead, sir.
in the interviews, just prior to the murder, his claim was he was at the Green Store.
Yes, I believe that was one, and he said he was in bed.
Okay.
Also, he was at home in the bed.
And then went to the Green Store.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's the store that,
Object as to mischaracterization of information that has of the evidence.
That's absolutely not a mischaracterization. What time did he get out of bed?
I do not know.
Go ahead.
Okay. So after he got out of bed, according to him, he went to the green store.
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay, and that's the store that's a block and a half or 2 blocks away from where Mr. Thomas was shot.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then his story to you was after the shooting, he was at the McDonald's.
Yes, sir.
All right. Over the last like 30 minutes or so, I'm not going to go through all of them. Ms. Love asked you about 75 different things that are in your report, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the bottom line is your report is thorough, correct?
Yes, sir.
Uno reverse. Uno reverse. He doesn't use Uno reverse. Oh, he does a Uno reverse here. Imagine everything, even the most insignificant thing you put in the report, and yet you didn't put this in the report.
In fact, your report includes you and Investigator Summer Benton going to the airport
Yes, sir.
to look for rental records in the name of Jeffrey Williams from Hertz Rental or from any rental car company at the airport.
Correct.
Okay. And the reality is at that time, you did not find any records, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That was a negative. You received negative results.
Correct.
Okay. But despite the fact that you got negative results from the rental companies at the airport, you still put your efforts to find evidence in the report, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So going to the airport, looking for rental records, not finding them, made your report, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But going to the green store, looking for surveillance and not finding it, that didn't make your report.
Yes, sir.
Going to the McDonald's, looking for surveillance and not finding it, that didn't make the report.
Yes, sir.
Going to the going to the AutoZone or the auto parts store right next to the McDonald's and not filing surveillance, that didn't make the report.
Yes, sir.
Ow! Damn cat.
Your testimony seems to be the only things that didn't make your report.
Your
You
Honor,
would-
I object to the characterization of the testimony. The jury can hear what the testimony
You
was.
were just asked by Ms. Love if anything else didn't make the report and you said no, correct?
Yes, sir.
So your testimony is the only 3 things that didn't make your report are going to the McDonald's, going to the green store, and going to the auto parts store looking for surveillance.
Yes, sir.
And we can't find your notes.
Correct, sir.
No further questions.
That is a hell of a Uno reverse. That is a hell of an Uno reverse card. That is how Miss Love is bad at her job. She opened the door by asking everything about this, all of these insignificant things, including negative results. And all Mr. Shard had to do was, so the only 3 things that didn't make the report is you going there. And you don't have your notes. That is.
All right.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Your Honor, may I ask just one, based on what was just asked, may I ask just,
It's not your turn yet.
oh,
Come on, Mr. Steele.
Mr. Steele. Please have something good here.
You have your supplemental report in front of you that Mr. Shart gave you by any chance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the jurors some of them may not understand this, law enforcement, some may not. So I just want to ask you some questions about reports, okay?
Yes, sir.
You testified already. You made it clear that report writing is something that you studied, you were taught, and you know it from your 30 years of experience. It's critical, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's critical because people rely on what you do, right?
Objection, Your Honor. As to, the characterization about people lying on.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Because you're doing the work, and then later, people like Ms. Love and the Honorable.
Objection, Your Honor, as to any reference to, it's not relevant. People like Ms. Love and.
What's your
whoever.
question gonna be?
Prosecutors rely on what you do, right?
Yes, sir.
And oftentimes they're not with you when you're doing it.
Yes, sir.
And people like me who represent people charged with crimes, we rely on what you do. We read your reports. You know that, right?
Yes, sir.
Judges like the Honorable Judge Whitaker listens to things that you say from reports, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And through that process, you want to make sure that you dictate, that you put into your reports everything you can that you did in the case that's material, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, at the bottom of each report, you have to sign and you take an oath and you swear, right?
Yes, sir.
That the report is true, correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct,
Yes, sir.
legible,
Yes, sir.
and complete.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you did in this case.
Yes, sir.
And you tell the jurors and you put in all the details of what you did, whether it was negative, positive, or whether it had to get further investigation or not. You put it into the reports, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you want to be fair to everybody and explain to them what you do, right?
Yes, sir.
What you do is important.
Yes, sir.
By not putting in anything, because there's no mention, and if there is a mention, just tell me I missed it. There's no mention of getting the McDonald's video in your report. Am I true?
Yes, sir. You're right.
And there's no mention of getting the video of what we're calling the green store, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're going back approximately 9 years, 8 years, 9.5 years, whatever the date is, to your memory of when you went to the McDonald's, right?
Yes, sir.
But you can't remember who you spoke with at the McDonald's, right?
Yes, sir.
And to be fair to you, are you telling this jury on your oath that McDonald's told you that the day before or 2 days before, we don't have that video?
Your Honor, objection is to the question. It was asked and answered, and to ask if he's telling him under oath it's meant to harass and embarrass.
Well, overruled.
Okay, what was that, sir?
You're relying on your memory, right?
Yes, sir.
And your memory, I'm not trying to argue how good or bad your memory is, but the reason you write the reports is so you have something contemporaneous, meaning at the time, right?
Yes, sir.
That's why you bring your notepad, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in your notepad that you brought with you to the McDonald's, right?
Yes, sir.
And you wrote down who you spoke with, right?
Yes, sir.
You got a telephone number in case you had to follow up, correct?
Yes, sir.
You saw their videos to ensure that they were correct, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you're not going to take somebody's word for it, because they could be telling you the truth, but they could be mistaken, right?
Yes, sir.
And you have all that information in there, right?
Yes, sir.
You might have even taken the video that they had, right?
Objection, Your Honor. That assumes facts not in evidence, and that question was asked and answered regarding the video.
Sustained as asked and answered.
The notes, though, that you keep those as backup in case there is something inadvertently or intentionally left out of your supplemental report, right?
Yes, sir.
But in this particular case, for whatever reason, those notes have vanished, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you remember testifying in a case? Do you know who the Honorable Judge Ellerby is
Yes, sir.
in this courthouse? Another judge,
Yes, sir.
powerful like Judge Whitaker?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember testifying in a case,
Okay.
State of Georgia versus Brandon Kirkland, also
Your
known
Honor,
as Big
objection
Red?
as to relevance.
I don't know what the relevance might be, so I can't
Any-
rule on that.
Your Honor, this is a whole other,
Why don't we approach?
Okay, what did Steele find? Because he wouldn't bring this up unless it's really important. And sidebar counter 251. Why do you look at me like I'm prey? Because I probably am to him. I'm out. I'm probably just a week's worth of lunch to Mr. Jingles. Skipping ahead, we want this. Oh. What did he find? What did he find?
You all, they were up here, pass along what we just said.
Do you remember testifying in or about April 7th, 2016 before the Honorable Judge Eller?
Oh, Miss Love's objection didn't go through.
Be in
What
this
is it?
courthouse in state of Georgia versus Brandon Kirkland, also known as Big Red, Jonathan Kirkland, also known as Prue, P-R-U.
Yes, sir.
And you're under the same oath that you're under today. Fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember the prosecutor in that case being Miss Love?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember under questioning by the Honorable Maxwell Shart in that case?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember explaining that your notes were also not around? Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember explaining that once an arrest is made by you, you shred your notes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now,
What? He shreds his notes? He destroys evidence? Are you fucking kidding me? This detective Squirrel brain shreds his notes. No wonder he can't find them. When was this? A few years ago? Well, if that is what he does, well, that explains why his notes are missing. Holy crap. And this ass hat knew all along. Miss Love knew this. She prosecuted it. Oh, wow. He shreds his notes. No wonder he can testify the way he does. Oh, it's not in the report, but it is in my notes, but I just can't find them. Bull crap. He shreds his notes. In order to, I would assume he learned this really quickly, that in a 30 years time, that if I shred my notes, I only have to refer to them as missing. 2016, this was a year later. 2016. He shreds the notes, and this was just a year later. That tells me he shreds his notes after every arrest all the time up until now.
in this case, you didn't shred your notes. You can't find them. Is that true?
Correct.
All right. Now, what does refurbishing notes mean? Is that
No,
go
the
ahead.
first notepad.
Okay, so
Reusing the same notepad.
so instead, if you're writing about your and my going to lunch on Notepad, but then you're going to do another day that you're going to eat lunch with the Honorable Keith Adams, you would rip up the parts that you met with me, so you have a refurbished or clean notepad to talk about when you went to lunch with Mr. Adams. Is that what you're saying?
No, basically, I take a new notepad and I may use it as a notepad as I'm assisting another detective who is the lead. So, or I'm going out on a suicide or a kidnapping or anything death-related investigation. So I'll just use that notepad instead of taking a brand new one
Sure.
and using that one.
So the empty sheets is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. And what do you do with the sheets that you wrote about notes on this case? That's the shred?
On this case, I didn't do anything with those. I just can't find the notepad itself.
This case was
bullshit.
preserved, but it
Okay.
vanished.
Okay, talking about the Kirkland case.
No, talk about our case today
Okay.
that you're sworn under.
Okay.
That's the one that vanished. You can't
Correct.
find it.
Correct.
Now, I want to talk with you.
What a crooked cop. What a crook. Yeah, as Porcelain Thunder says, why would you shred notes? And it's a rhetorical question. To hide something. This is evidence. He's destroying evidence. Jesus Christ. I mean, we've been listening to testimony for 130 days something. And I think I've seen 2 good cops on the stand out of all the cops and investigators that has taken the stand. One was the large black gentleman who also testified that why would I erase witness testimony? That would be illegal. And then at the same point was that crime scene investigator for Atlanta who also said I would never erase. That was when Mr. Velasquez admitted on the stand under oath that he has had, because he's retired from the police force now, he had this where if he interviewed a witness and they gave statements he didn't like, he erased them and asked them for a new story. If he didn't like that one, he erased that too until he got a story he liked. That he kept. And now this fucking says he shreds, but not this one. Oh no, not this one. Just a year earlier, oh no, he didn't do that. But in a testimony in 2016, he explicitly said, according to Mr. Steele, he shreds his notepads once there is an arrest. That means there is a pattern going back in time. He had been a cop for 20 years, something like that at this point. Is he trying to say that, well, at my 21st year as a cop, I started shredding them? No. No.
Since we don't have the notes, you didn't give those notes to the district attorney's office, correct?
No, sir.
All right. So all we have to go on, all the jury has, is your memory that we don't have that recording from the McDonald's, right?
Yes, sir.
Same question for the Green Store, just your word.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, with regards to questions that you asked on redirect examination by Ms. Love, that there were certain people in this case that you charged with murder on or about October 20th, 2015. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
And one of those people was Mr. Sledge, who came out, right?
Yes, sir.
One of those people is Mr. Copeland, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember stating that you're aware that the district attorney's office did not charge the offense of murder of Donovan Thomas to Mr. Sledge? You aware of that? You remember those questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And same with Mr. Copeland. They did not
Yes, sir.
charge him with that either. You never charged Jeffrey Williams with murder of Donovan Thomas, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
You never charged Jeffrey Williams with any crimes, fair to say?
Yes, sir. Fair to say.
You know, the district attorney's office hasn't charged Jeffrey Williams with the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Well, actually, I'll let him go with that one. I thought he was going to ask a different question. I withdraw the objection.
All right.
You're aware of that, correct?
Okay, repeat that again, sir.
Sure. You're aware that the district attorney's office through the grand jury did not charge Jeffrey Williams with the murder of Donovan Thomas. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you have any information that you can share with the jury that Jeffrey Williams was in possession of the Infiniti rental car, gray, from Hertz on January 9th of 2015?
Nothing that I discovered. No, sir.
Same question for the next day, January 10th of 2015. Any information you could share with this jury that Jeffrey Williams was in possession of that same rental Infiniti vehicle?
No, sir. Not on my investigation. No, sir.
January 11th, you realize that's the day it's returned?
Yes,
You don't
sir.
remember? Okay. Do you have any information to share with this jury that Jeffrey
Your
Williams?
Honor, as it relates to this portion regarding the objection about the scope, I would object that it goes beyond.
Sustained.
I have no other questions.
All right.
Ah,
Very briefly, Ms. Love.
Thank you.
very briefly, Ms. Love.
And Detective Thorpe, I know nobody in here believes that I'm going to be brief, but I really am going to be brief. With respect to what Mr. Steele just asked you about not putting anything else of value into the report or leaving anything out, did you put in your report that you took gunshot residue samples off Kenneth Copeland's hands at the time that you interviewed him?
I believe I didn't.
You did not?
I believe I did. I can't recall.
Could you please look at your report and see if it refreshes your memory?
What page
Second
was it at, ma'am?
redirect.
I'm sorry.
Just the page where you talk about your January 10th, 11th rather, interview with Kenneth Copeland.
All right.
No, she's just started on redirect. So second redirect.
And y'all feel the need to stand up and stretch, please feel free to do that. Okay.
Do you recall?
No, ma'am.
As you sit here today, do you recall whether you did a gunshot residue test on Kenneth Copeland's hands?
Yes, I did.
How do you know that you did?
By the video. I believe it was on the video.
And was that something substantial that you considered during your investigation that you did
Yes, ma'am.
gunshot residue?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you put it in your report then?
Because he knew it was on video and he put the video in the evidence file.
Overlook.
Now, did you put in your report?
Oh, she's grasping for straws here. I'm at 1.5 speed so we can get this over with.
All of the information that you included or that you asked Kenneth Copeland about in your interviews with him,
Yes, ma'am.
did you put every piece of information in the report that you talked?
What? Oh, that's just stupid, Miss Love. It's recorded. It's recorded.
To? And when I say every piece, I mean, did you put every detail of your interview with Kenneth Copeland into your report?
No, ma'am. That's why the video is included. It says refer to details
Okay.
from the video.
Did you put in your report that after you took gunshot residue from Kenneth Copeland's hands, that you resumed your interview with him?
No, ma'am.
Did you?
Oh, for frick's sake. That is your... Now, this is desperation.
Resume your interview with him at about 4:00 a.m.
Oh, I don't want this. Okay. Oh, Mr. Steele is on his way
Rental
up
records
again.
that the DA's office were able to get.
No, ma'am. I did not.
And
I'm not interested, Miss Love. Oh.
You-
Mr. Shart, on recross.
You were asked about if your report included verbatim what Kenneth Copeland said to you in the interviews. Remember that?
Yes,
Okay, you didn't need to put what he said verbatim because it's on a video, right?
correct.
You were asked about the gunshot residue. Whether you put that collection of the gunshot residue from Kenneth Copeland, whether you put that in your report, right?
Correct,
And you didn't because you didn't need to because that was on video, correct?
correct.
All right, where is the video of you going to McDonald's and asking for surveillance?
Objection, Your Honor. That was asked and answered about the, there's
Overruled.
assuming facts
Where's
not
the-
in evidence
where's
about
that
a
video?
video that,
Overruled.
okay.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't have a video of myself going into McDonald's.
Okay,
So that was never recorded on a video, or I did not do a digital audio recording of that either.
cool, thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you. You are excused.
Okay, so
Do you have another witness
Detective
available?
Squirrel Brain will resume his work for the Atlanta Police Department. Messing up cases, shredding notes, letting guilty people walk and innocent people in prison, I would assume. That, folks, what you've seen today is a bad cop, completely worthless as an investigator, completely and utterly worthless as a cop. Absolutely worthless. And he's been doing it for 30 years in the same incompetent manner. He had learned nothing from when he was trained. He learned nothing on the job except how to destroy evidence for the defense. That, yeah, not for the defense, but destroying evidence that defense could use. That is the only thing he learned in the Atlanta Police Department. And considering he's been there for 30 years, he probably taught that to other cops as well. Here's how you destroy evidence so the prosecution can prosecute easier. And no
Okay,
more
well,
witnesses.
This is ideally and far too early to be finishing the day. I will say we have I have an email that says that a fire alarm is going to go off at 5 p.m. That's a test. So I guess we'll at least avoid that. Sometimes they go on for a long time and they're really loud.
Remember when Judge Whitaker said 9 to 5 each day, or even 9 to 6 each day, even 8:45 to 6 p.m. if need be. But she can't, because Prosecutor Love is a nitwit, unprepared. And they had the case for 2 years, over 2 years, and they are still unprepared. Let's see if
Ladies and gentlemen, anyway,
see if anything happens
this
after.
is all right, a couple of matters. First of all, Miss Love, that needs to be the absolute last time that you don't have enough witnesses to carry us at least until 5. And if it happens again and there is something less than an earthquake, an 8-car pileup, somebody died, 3 people died, and so none of the witnesses were available,
Yeah.
I may just say you can't have that witness, because at this point in this incredibly long trial, to have to end at 4:25 is not a good use of anybody's time. Do you understand?
I do.
All right. I have.
Yeah, but why should we believe? I will not believe Judge Whitaker until she actually does it. I need to see her actually do it. I mean, imagine if this happened. But now Ms. Love will only lie about who is the next witness and then remove that one. Imagine if the next time is something very crucial, like, oh, the custodian. The custodian of records that the defense refuses to make proffers of. That would be interesting.
Yes, some of y'all also got, and y'all who didn't, I forwarded a very lengthy email from Miss Merchant regarding Mr. Arnold, who is her client, and the information that she received.
Oh. Yeah, Miss Love hasn't ruled out that she wants to call Miss Merchant to the stand. And for broadcasting reasons, please do. Because she will wreck you, Miss Love. Completely wreck you.
Very recently that he might be called as a witness this week. And it appears, and I know you know this, Miss Love, because you got the email too, but that she told the state a long time ago that she was not going to be available certain dates. And she also asked, because I have reviewed in camera portions of her correspondence with you at this point, that you give her at least 7 days notice if you were going to call or when you were going to call Mr. Arnold. So she's on vacation. She has a leave of absence. I don't know what your plan is.
Oh, she did this against Mr. Kayla. She did this so Kayla Bumpus had to step in with Woody against Woody. Planned the testimony to when Woody's original lawyer couldn't be there. And now she does it again against Miss Merchant. Now, Miss Merchant is of a completely different caliber. Completely. I mean, I love Miss Bumpus. I mean, she's an amazing person. But Ashley Merchant, that's a whole other story. Whole other story. And she tried to call her client knowing that Ashley had vacation and time off. Oh, no.
But have you worked that out?
Your Honor, what I asked, and I'm not sure if it was conveyed, was whether there was anyone else that she was willing to let come in and in her stead. But I can tell you that the reason that we moved up the time frame for her client has to do with our
Challenges with us.
How can you have been stalling all over the place since we got back to the trial? And now you claim, oh, I had to move him up. Bull crap.
Yes. And so given that, I understand that Ms. Merchant wants 7 days in advance.
Well, that's not as much the issue as the fact that if she can't be here and he's still going to be on the stand, then you need to not start him.
Right. I understand that. If she had someone that he was okay with being here, then, you know, and that was.
Oh,
all right.
no.
So you and she have worked that out then?
No, I haven't had a chance to talk to her. I had someone talking to her on my behalf. I will respond to her and say that, because if she didn't.
I haven't responded, even though it got sent directly to me, because I don't normally do that. But if you would please let her know that, as far as I'm concerned, she is not expected to cut her leave off.
No, I understand.
You need to work around that.
And we were, yes, I was, yes.
All right.
That's fine.
You
Couple of other
sneaky
things.
bee.
So I haven't been able to review in full the briefs that Ms. Abbasi and the state provided on the overt acts, but with regard to one of them, and I don't even know if you have either, because she, I think, sent it this morning, but there was indication in her letter brief that the issue at the jail may have been a self-defense issue.
Oh.
And so I would like to see the video.
Okay.
And
so one of these intrinsic acts that Miss Love claims, oh, they attacked. Apparently it was self-defense. Fucking da.
Find out whether there was any evidence at all of a shank being on Bussy or whatever his name is.
I think that he took one. I think there was one after, but I will show you the video. I think that that's easy enough to do. We can send that to the court.
Okay.
So after he was attacked, he took a shank from somewhere or somebody. That's self-defense, not the way you claimed it was.
And then finally, when I started looking through all of the in-camera looking in camera through all of the correspondence between the state and various attorneys for one-time co-defendants, it's at this point about this thick, which is a lot. And I am wondering, and I know that I'm kind of the one that said, do you want me to do it in camera? But do you have an objection to just providing all of it to the defense? Because frankly, I'd rather they do the work than me. And you may just,
I would prefer
And-
if the court would allow us to
Okay.
just review them, given.
all right, I'll trudge through it, but it's going to take me a while because as y'all know,
Oh, there's something in it. Oh, that is such a tell. She knows there are stuff in those correspondence that she really don't want the defense to know about. Uh, oh, she's withholding something. And if it's Brady again, oh.
I'm here with you every day. So, okay. All right, anything else? Hmm? Which one? Well, we did once, but. So can we try this again? For some reason, I do not know why, this keeps resetting itself to 40% volume today. So it's at 100% now. So let me. Well, you've just got really good hearing then. Do you have it?
I think that 100, Your Honor, is the volume you're listening at, not the amplification of the mic.
Okay, then everybody that comes up to the bench, hold it close to your mouth. Said, let me know and we can review for you what it was that was said, okay? And if there is ever a time, I'll just remind the defendants that you cannot hear what is being said. Let me know and we can review for you what it was that was said, okay? Everybody understand that? Yes? Yes, okay, wonderful. All right, is there any other matter in the half hour extra that we have that anybody wants to bring up or deal with?
Call a mistrial with prejudice. Just do
Everybody
it,
just wants to
Your
go.
Honor.
I'll put this in writing just for ease, but on it's pronounced Nyson? The firearms, Nyson? NIBIN, on the NIBIN report. For two different officers, I just want to alert the state again, just as a courtesy to Mr. Williams and everyone. There are two firearms that are listed that were seized in the unlawful search of Mr. Williams' home. I'll put it in writing again, but I just, I'm not trying to delay things. So I just want to make the state aware, and I will put it in writing, but you have it on for two witnesses.
Make sure those witnesses don't mention anything about those firearms. Yes, make it clear because he's bringing it to your attention. I'm bringing it to your attention. These are professionals anyway. So once you tell them that.
Yeah, that doesn't. If Miss Love wants the witnesses to accidentally speak about it, she will make sure.
Should not happen. Okay. All right. Yes.
Assuming QZ is not here tomorrow. And is the plan that we are just going down the list that was provided this morning? Is that,
I don't know what the plan is.
I'm just trying to figure
Who
out
are
what
your-
materials to bring tomorrow.
Your Honor, as I said, we have rearranged and are rearranging. And as a result of
The change in circumstances, Miss Love, is that you took a really ill person and put him in jail so he became more ill. That's the circumstance. That is your doing. Yours, well, Miss Hilton, or I don't care which one, the prosecution did. That is the change of circumstances. If any of you had an inkling of compassion and at any point have the thought, hey, this severely ill person, if we put him in jail, he might die. And you put him in jail anyway. And now he's in the hospital. He might fight for his life, for all we know. I don't know.
change in circumstances. And as we have to rearrange that, we are not putting up who we intended to put up. And so we are rearranging in real time, and we have people doing that and working on that. And so that's where we
You
are.
have
And,
100.
I don't
Well, now you
know.
have 128 witnesses. There are some people you can put up there. You can ask the court permission to, we need to skip the Donovan Thomas until QZ is okay. And move on to another ridiculous overt act for the rest of the week.
We found out some
You're
information.
so mysterious all the time, Miss Love. Is it your plan, if Mr. Zachary is available, to call him? And if not, could you share with everybody else who you plan to call instead?
Yes, it's our plan to call
Okay.
him if he is available.
All right.
And yes, when I speak with our team to see who is now next up and available tomorrow, I will share that with them.
When will that be?
Well,
It's 4:35 right now. 6 o'clock?
by 6 o'clock, I think we'd be able to tell because they've been out.
Okay.
Is that a real 6 o'clock? Because we were supposed to get the list yesterday by 8 o'clock and it didn't come until 5 something this morning. So,
I don't know.
I mean, we just need to know what to bring tomorrow.
Your Honor, it's,
Well, I mean, it'll at least be somebody off of this list that y'all came up with at 5:57 this morning, right?
yes, and the
Okay.
other,
So y'all will know that much. That's,
That's not enough.
she'll endeavor to do the best
These
she
are
can to get you the
20
other
people.
information. It's 6.
You can't ask the defense to bring material for 20 witnesses.
Don't you, Miss Love?
yes.
The big list, Your Honor.
I sure will.
I mean, y'all, we covered some of them today. It's not that big of a list.
You covered what? 3? 4? 3 today.
Y'all
On
are
a
all
list of
professionals,
30.
and you've been prepping this trial for who knows how long now.
Yeah, but they can't prep for a trial where the prosecution is keeping secrets, where the prosecution renames files so they are harder to find for the defense. They can't prepare for unethical, corrupt prosecution. This is not on the defense. It can never be on the defense when it is the prosecution that refuses to be prepared.
what it is.
Okay, anything else? All right. All right. I feel like can we do 9 o'clock? Or I feel like every time I say, let's come back for lunch at the same time as the jury, or let's start at the same time as the jury, that we've got 5 things that need to get dealt with. So we'll give it a test. 9 o'clock tomorrow. All right, we're adjourned.
All right. It is 11 p.m. where I am, and my alarm clock goes off at 4:30 a.m. So I have 5.5 hours, which is, yeah. But I've told you this before. I sleep twice per day, 2 times 3.5 hours. I didn't sleep my first 3.5 hours, so this will be my first 3.5 hours. Even though I can, if I skip one, I will not sleep for 7 hours. I will still only sleep for 3.5 hours. So tomorrow, I will start late. Let me just say that. I will start late tomorrow because I need my sleep. But everyone, I will be redirecting you to a premiere. My premiere of the brief. You have heard about it. It was the brief of overt acts that the state presented. I will try to translate it for you. And the premiere starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'll be redirecting you to that one so you can see my attempt of translating word salad again. So, but everybody, I will see you all back here tomorrow. As I said, I will start late. But until then, Mr. Jingles and me bids you good night or good evening. And we will see you all back here tomorrow. So thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you for allowing me to try to translate this to you. And of course, hug your family. Unless your family is crap, then screw them and give your love to the people who deserve it. Okay? See you later. Bye-bye.
Courtroom drama, heart frozen in the dark. Evil prosecutor, love, justice, she block. Defense drops a gem, my fury unlock. Wrath like a storm, thunder at the clock. She can't handle wrong. Shoots a heavy stone, twisting testimonies, words cut to the bone. Defense brings the heat, cracks the evil tone. She sees in silence, conscience overthrown. Word of doom, vengeance in her gaze. Vindictive plot against virtuous face. Defense shines light, she drowns in malaise. Evil prosecutor, love trapped in her maze.